And away we go on a Monday afternoon. How are you? It is the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Glad to have you along. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. You can also do so on YouTube. Type in the Chico Bormann Show, hit subscribe, and you are ready to go. You can also join in by calling. Yeah, you can do that. You can simply pick up that telephone. Do you think anybody still has a rotary phone, Boom? Are rotary phones still? I can't hear you, Boom.
I didn't say anything yet.
Oh, I saw your mouth move, but nothing came out. Another talent.
I was about to, but then you were.
I was.
You were still talking. I didn't want to intrude on your words there.
You can intrude all you want. You think rotary phones are still in existence somewhere? Not in like a museum, like in someone's home.
I think as a novelty.
As a novelty.
Yeah.
But not in use.
Probably usable, but just like
novelty.
Yeah.
Because I can remember, now granted, my grandparents are, rest in peace, are gone now, but they had a rotary phone until they said that's it. So I mean, I think there's probably someone who has a rotary phone in use, like that's their home phone. Nobody I know ever uses the home phone. But if you would like to use the home phone and call us from a rotary phone, we could have an autographed Dave McAllister poster for you. Not picture, poster.
I will say, Chico, my grandparents had a rotary phone in the early 2000s that was in use, and I had used it before.
Yeah, okay, that's same here. Now, my aunt and uncle still have one of those, the ones where you pick up, like they had in the Three Stooges, you pick it up and you talk into it, or do you put the thing to your ear? I think you talk into it.
Yeah.
Like old school, before rotary phone.
Like the one piece one that or the 2-piece one that you have to hold and like.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, those are the best. So, all right. So, hey, yeah, if you'd like to use a rotary phone, an archaic phone, a cell phone would be great. If you're out driving around, if you are oot and a boot, as they say in Canada, 10 and 2 on the wheel, and give us a call. 216-626-7901. Yes, Dave. Dave giving us a thumbs up, yes, to let us know that everything is okay here at Big Play Land at Burke Lakefront Airport. I don't know, Bo. I just work here. Coming up at 2 o'clock, we have a guest for you each and every day in the 2 o'clock hour, and today is no different. Did you notice a little yes, Bo, go ahead.
Well, I want to ask you, Chico. I don't know if you recognize who Dave is with right now in that lobby, but there are things afoot.
I did not see who he's with.
You don't recognize that face? I don't know if I should say it over the air.
They have their backs to me.
Oh, maybe. Do you see Dave right now?
Now I don't see Dave.
Oh,
No.
okay. They're right. Okay. There's a guest out there that Dave is talking to right now that I can see.
Well, you can't just leave everybody hanging.
Very good golfer. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it over the air. It's like behind closed doors stuff.
What do you mean behind?
I mean, it's a tease. We got stuff in the works here, Chico. You're at the Big Play
You
Network.
don't. If you have to ask or you don't know if we can say his name, then you don't know what the hell's in the works.
I heard they're working on something.
Is it a
what I was
member of a
told.
certain organization?
Sure, he I guess works with another organization.
Works with it. Okay. Okay, so Bohm's
Oh.
trying to be secretive about this. And I'm told that there is a very, very good golfer. Now, you're not talking about Dave, are you? Because
No.
Dave fancies himself a very good golfer.
No, I'm not talking about Dave now.
All right. Well, Bohm's not releasing the name, and if Bohm's not going to release the name, I'm not at liberty to release the name. Bohm has all the power here in the Chico Bormann Show. Okay. All right, there you go. Well, there's your tease. See, Bohm? See, look what you started. People on the edge of their seat going, who is it? Who is it? You're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait. Nick Shook, NFL.com, our good buddy, Northeast Ohio native, will be joining us at 2. How about the Browns with a big signing, huh? Did you see? I didn't hear anything, zero, about Zadarius Smith coming to the Browns.
Yeah, Chico, I was at the Guardians game, and I came back, and I saw the news like immediately upon returning home. And, yeah, let's just say it was quite uplifting after a disappointing Guards loss.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were there on Friday. That was a tough one. But they did. We'll get to them in a moment. But they did take 2 out of 3 and some bats, more so than even just Ahmed Rosario beginning to heat up. But, yeah, Zadarius Smith, I didn't even see that one coming. I think great move by Andrew Berry. And, you know, you look at obviously the ties there. Kwesi used to be with the Browns, now with Minnesota, the GM, and they go ahead and make that deal. They were looking for some cap relief. The Browns said, we'll give you a 5th rounder. That's just amazing. A 5th rounder next year, a 5th rounder the following year, and I think they swapped 6th and 7th rounders as well. But, I mean, bottom line is nobody's talking about that. Everybody is and should be talking about Zadarius Smith in now with the Browns for this season. This guy's a Pro Bowler. This guy is not only that, he's a Pro Bowler playing for a big payday. Now, we thought that would work out well with Jadeveon Clowney, and I guess it did somewhat. But in the end, Jadeveon was more worried about, hey, my payday's tied to my numbers, and, well, if you guys are scheming for Myles Garrett, I can't get my numbers. So let's just say Zadarius Smith can play. He's been able to play for a while now, and this, again, this isn't a rotational piece, although Jim Schwartz likes the depth and likes to keep, Myles fresh legs. One thing that I always go back to with the Philadelphia Eagles when Schwartz was there is that he always wanted guys, not that every defensive coordinator doesn't, but a lot of them will say it, but then they don't actually do it because, they get desperate in times or whatever. But Schwartz always wants to have fresh legs. Those Eagles teams, when they were winning it all, when they were, essentially what that was is they had an incredible defensive line. Now, some of those guys have since gone because of cap casualties, and that's what happens when you have winning teams. But he always wanted fresh legs in the fourth quarter. Always. So now you add another piece and a huge piece in Zadarius Smith. I love it. I think we all love it. But again, I'm taking my cautious tone. I said even before they added Zadarius Smith, this team has talent. We know that. Now they've got to get the most out of it. But that was kind of, I don't know of anybody that had that one, saw that one coming. As far as the rumor mill, the talks, I know the talks had quieted with Zadarius Smith and the Vikings in terms of a long-term deal. But other than that, that was it. So great news there. We'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit more with Nick Shook coming up at 2 o'clock in the second hour of the show. All right, again, 216-626-7901. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Network. Guardians with Bowman attendance, his first baseball game in 9 years. Or was it less than that, Bo?
I think it was less than 9.
Less than 9?
It was probably like more than 5.
Did you have to ask, like, when they said, everybody up on your feet, it's the 7th, did you have to say, like, the 7th?
I didn't forget Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Chico.
What about OHIO?
Oh, I heard Hang On Sloopy. Unfortunately, I was in line for concessions at the time.
Boom, that is, for you. For some people, that's an excuse. For you, that is not an excuse, Boom.
I know in football games, they do it at the end of the third quarter. I don't know what the equivalent of the end of the third quarter is in baseball. Like, I would have assumed that's probably...
I think they did it in the 8th. Didn't they do it halfway, going into the home half of the 8th?
I just remember I was in line for food. You know what? It might have been the 6th, middle of the 6th, because that's when I got up.
They used to do it in the 8th.
Oh.
I don't know if maybe they did do it in the 6th. I don't know. But, Boom, the idea that you, of all people, who was probably in line having a conversation, making an argument that Jackson Smith and Jigba will lead the NFL in catches, yards, touchdowns, everything. That you making that argument then would not participate in OHIO, Hang On Sloopy, is, I think, we're going to have the Buckeye faithful look into possibly taking your Buckeye card, not the old card, the Ohio State Buckeye card.
What can I say, Chico? Wrong time, right place. Do I need to put together a case here to defend my Buckeye fandom?
There is no defense. That's just it, Boom.
It's inexcusable, huh?
Unfortunately for you. And if you didn't do so much, talking about the Buckeyes and, getting sweaty at times talking about the Buckeyes, and if somebody questions anything on the Buckeyes, you're kind of like Steeler fan when someone says, well, yeah, Paris Johnson, man, he's gonna be Hall of Fame. He's gonna be one of the best ever. Maybe not to that extent, but you're close.
A little hyperbolic there, but
you're close.
Sure.
The good news is Guardians do take 2 out of 3. Now, I know the game that you were at, Class A, unable to close it out. And I started to see some of the tweets. Of course. What's going on with Class A? They're in big. Now, you lose a game like that. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I understand it does lead to a little bit of panic. If not, things that you say that you really don't mean, because you're heading into that series with the Angels knowing, okay, at the very least, let's get 2 out of 3. If we can sweep them, great. You got to start, making up some ground. The Twins, more on them in a moment, but the Twins are ahead of you in the division. And so when you have a game in hand and then you have one of the best closers, if not the best closer in the game, in Emmanuel Clase, you just assume that he's going to be able to close that out. Now, that's sometimes unfair to a guy like Clase, but again, we're talking about a fan base that at times thought Cody Allen was just the worst closer ever because he didn't Mariano Rivera, just 3 up, 3 down, whatever. But they bounce back. Clase does get it done yesterday. They take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. And remember, going into Friday's game was talking about Ahmed Rosario getting hot. Well, guess who's really, I guess we could call him white hot. And not only white hot, but white hot in the clutch, in the late innings, Mr. Josh Naylor. Now, Bohm, you were there for Friday's shot. You said you had a good angle at that. Obviously, you weren't at the concession stand for that one, which is good. But you had a good angle for the Naylor home run.
Oh, yeah. It was a sight to behold. I was in between the third baseline and home plate. And it looked like it reminded me of when you step up to the tee on a golf course and you break out the driver and you just rip one right down the middle. Perfect. And it was just a beautiful sight to see, just flying off into the sky. unfortunately, they couldn't pull away with the win, but it was foreshadowing for a magical weekend for one Joshua Naylor.
Joshua, you call him Joshua. 3 straight.
That is what Josh is short for, right?
Well, yeah. You know how some people, though, they're like, no, that's not like you say, oh, your name's Katie, so that's short for Kathleen. No, my name's Katie. Josh. No, it's just Josh. It's not Nick. It's not Nicholas. It's just Nick. Some people are like that. I wouldn't want to make Josh mad, but I'm sure it's Joshua. Yeah, 3 straight. Those and doing it in the late innings. So he's feeling it. You're feeling good. You're feeling good. Now, the bad news is the Minnesota Twins did their part. I swear to God, yesterday as I'm watching the Guardians game, which was an early. Now, see, you would have had trouble if your tickets were Sunday, Ball. You would have had trouble. You would have arrived roughly around the 4th or 5th inning.
Yeah. That's an early morning for me, Chico.
Yeah, that was the 11:30 start or thereabouts.
Yeah, why did they start so early? Like, I've never. Do they do that normally?
Yes, it's now it's part of the package deal. I think. Is it Amazon? I think it's Amazon. They call it like Wake Up America or baseball, whatever, and they pick a game, and there's always a game at like 11, just after 11 o'clock in the morning. And so no, it wasn't like a Patriots Day Cleveland style. There wasn't marathon going on. It was just early baseball because the networks dictated so. But yeah, I think between watching that game and then checking out the Twins, and the Twins, just every time I looked up, they kept tacking another one on. I mean, they blasted the Cubs 16-3, I think it was. So a little bit scary. They've won 2 in a row. Guardians are 3.5 back. Here's the good news. Guardians are off today. They're back at it tomorrow. They start a series in Chicago against the White Sox. Now, I'm not going to say, they should probably win those games because in baseball, it's just, of all sports, I think baseball is the one you just don't say that. You just don't know. But Chicago, the White Sox anyway, have struggled. We know that. So they've got 3 in Chicago beginning tomorrow. The Twins will be on the West Coast facing the Los Angeles Dodgers. So maybe an opportunity, again, maybe, for the Guardians to make up some ground as early as tonight. I think that series with Minnesota and LA starts tonight. So maybe as early as tonight, Guardians can gain a little bit of ground. We'll see. But still a big series. Again, that's 2 straight series wins. Wow, big. No, that is. I mean, when you start slow, you gotta walk before you crawl. You gotta crawl before you walk. You gotta walk before you run. You gotta run before you do whatever Bohm does. Yeah, it's
engage in hand-to-hand combat.
That's right. So 2 series in a row, you'll take it. Get an off day. Keep feeling good about yourselves, and hopefully we get more guys that are starting to warm up. I don't know about Mike Zunino though. I'm starting to feel like the Mike Zunino days are very numbered. Not that I want them to be, but the amount of strikeouts he has over the last I think 25, 30 at bats is downright frightening. And I know, everybody's going to talk about Bo Naylor, Josh's brother. Joshua's. Now, is Bo short for anything?
I wanted to ask you that, and I refrained, Chico. I really almost asked you that.
Well, it's all right. I don't think it's an off-limits question. I really don't know.
I'll have to look it up, because I know that Bo can be a name, like just straight, like Bo, but...
Yeah, you can. The question is... You could Bohm. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Bohm. You can spell it B-O or B-E-A-U. B-E-A-U seems to be the more sophisticated version. Where's your Bo?
Bo can be short for Beauregard, Beaufort, Bonnie.
I'm guessing he's not Bonnie. Let's name him Bonnie. It's all right, Bo. Don't go down it. Don't go into the weeds any more than you already have.
Beaufort Naylor.
But Bo Naylor. What was the second one?
Beauregard Naylor.
Beauregard. In regard to Beauregard, we think that we're going to call him up soon, but not just yet. Anyway, that could happen soon. We don't know. But anyway, a good weekend for the Guardians. They had to have that. They got another series under their belt. I know it's not earth-shattering, but this is how you got to do it. And especially after Friday, you still want a team that shows resiliency. You still want a team that shows bounce back, and they did that. And so we'll wait for the White Sox game tomorrow, the White Sox series tomorrow, and certainly see what Minnesota do some scoreboard watching beginning tonight in L.A. against the Dodgers. So we had that NBA postseason. You know, one thing I love about sports, one of many things, Bo, and we talk about this, whether it's the NFL draft. We saw it in the Cavaliers-Knicks series. You know, game 1, they get blown out. Game 2, they're the ones blowing, and all of a sudden it's like the overreaction. You know, they say overreaction Monday. Anytime you have a 7-game series, each game there's overreaction. You've got, overreaction for the draft. Like, oh man, they had a great year. We really don't know if they had a great draft, in between draft. Who knows? And in the Sixers series, the Sixers went down hard to the Boston Celtics. It was so funny because James Harden is known for what? I mean, he's known for being, an MVP and a guy that can fill it up and and he did so twice in this series. Game 1 without Embiid, like that was his game. Now, maybe Embiid being out in game 1, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe Embiid being out in game 1 kind of allowed like the I don't know, tension or any kind of anxiety just kind of fade away because he knew, like, okay, it's got to be me, and he's not afraid to jack him up. But to have what happened in Game 7, I mean, Embiid does that. Joel Embiid didn't play very well, and the Celtics rout the 76ers, and they move on to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. Boom, now what's funny? What do you have that's funny?
No, I'm just thinking of some fair or foul topics. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, we don't want
to.
Yeah, that's a little early for you. I didn't know you did that kind of homework on fair or foul.
Sometimes, Chico, the inspiration just hits me.
It just hits you?
Yeah, I'm not like fully scanning for topics, but sometimes it just hits you. Oh, that could be good.
I'd love to be there when it hits you. I'd love to see the reaction. Well, I've already
see the light bulb go off.
Yeah, and that's one hell of a light bulb, by the way. So it's the Celtics and the Heat, and it's the L.A. Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. So I don't think the big surprise, obviously, the Lakers. I mean, there was times this year where if they just made the playoffs, you thought, well, they'll be lucky just to make the playoffs. And then, round about a month before the postseason, you heard guys like Chris Mannix say they're going to win the West. And people were like, Mannix is out of his mind with SI, Sports Illustrated. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Or is Mannix with ESPN now? I can't remember. Don't look it up, Bohm. It's all right. So Mannix says that. Some people began to pile on after that with, yeah, you know what? I think that's possible. And they did indeed make it. Anthony Davis, they're going to go as far as Anthony Davis takes him. And again, that's not a slight to LeBron, but especially now in this series coming up. Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, Jokic is, I don't think you're going to see anybody just shut him down. But do you avoid the Lakers avoid Jokic from getting the 40, 50-point games? Going absolutely berserk. Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, can be that guy in the defensive end. He had the other night, 20 boards, I think it was. And he's a force defensively. So it's going to be a good series. As far as the Heat and the Celtics, I feel like now, and I've already said I think Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA. But the Miami Heat, their road, they did get the Bucks without Giannis healthy for, 2.5, almost 3 games. And certainly that helped. The Knicks seem to be a little bit perplexed at times, maybe a bit overrated. And I know that we wanted, it hurts even more for Cavs fans because they feel like, man, if we could have just beaten the Knicks, then you never know. I mean, I think you give Spoelstra a lot of credit. I thought that Tyler Herro being out in that series and Butler kind of being on his own, but they find a way. And in large part, obviously Jimmy Butler, also in large part, you got guys like Kyle Lowry, but Eric Spoelstra is the man. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach, I feel, in the NBA. But now you don't necessarily have that break. They got a break. Hey, everybody gets them every now and then. What do you do with it? They obviously took advantage of it in regards to Giannis being out. Now you get a Celtics team. Now you get Jason Tatum. Now you get Jaylen Brown. Now you get all those guys. I think that's going to be a damn good series. It feels like a 7-game knockdown, drag them out type series. I heard an interesting question on the way home on Saturday night from somebody at some national show, and I thought it was interesting, and I actually made a mental note, Boom. Made a mental note. Whose stock would you buy right now? Now, try to be objective. Again, I'm talking to Bohm about this, but it doesn't have to do with Ohio State. Try to be objective. Whose stock are you buying more of right now? Philadelphia 76ers. Future very uncertain right now. Harden probably gone. Embiid, don't know. Philadelphia 76ers, Cleveland Cavaliers, we know all about the Cavs, or the New York Knickerbockers.
So I guess I might come off a little biased here, but I would take the Cavs in that situation.
You didn't even really think about it.
No, I thought about where I have my concerns with each of them, and I think that in considering long-term sustainability, I feel like the Cavs are in the best position to do that. I think they have the most pieces in place. Now, you need to re-sign Donovan Mitchell, but I have a lot of faith in Kobe Altman to really improve the depth of this bench. And you mentioned James Harden. I feel like that's kind of a ticking time bomb in any locker room he's in. And he's on the decline of his career. Joel Embiid is someone who is always, I feel like, going to have some degree of injury concerns. There's just a lot of things with them that I feel like it doesn't strike me as sustainable success. Even though they are able to make runs in the playoffs consistently, we never see them get over the hill. Never seen them in a finals appearance. So I really think that with the Cavs and then with the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, I suppose Mitchell Robinson, there's something to be said about that too, but Jalen Brunson is really the only guy on that roster that I look at and say, okay, that's a guy that I can build a team around.
Well, he's a superstar.
Yeah.
Like I think in the playoffs, maybe people think I'm exaggerating a bit. I don't. I mean, after watching him in this postseason, he's always had a great game, but he was, they don't even go as long as they did in that series without Jalen Brunson. He is a superstar. Here's the question, though, and this may sound a bit crazy, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like you said, as far as the Cavaliers, if Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell in the postseason, then okay, yeah. Maybe we're talking about them beating the Knicks, but I don't. It's not all on Donovan. We know the trials and tribulations. We know the problems they had.
The Cavs are also the most inexperienced of those three teams too.
Well, no, the Knicks are pretty inexperienced. The Knicks are very inexperienced too.
They are, but they have more players with more time in the
playoffs.
But
they're still. I don't think it's that big of a margin. I think what we're getting at here, I'm getting at here with the Knicks versus the Cavaliers is Jalen Brunson has proven it in the postseason. Now, Donovan Mitchell, these reports are out there now, and it's seemingly one guy that's leading the charge about it, that he's hearing that, beyond this season, he's off to New York, and it's, he wants to go to New York, and, he wanted it to happen before, and, well, the Knicks didn't want him, but now to me, it feels a little premature, number one, because I think I'm not saying this guy doesn't have sources. I'm sure he does. He's covered the NBA for a while. But if you're going to make that claim, like, I need to hear or I need to see more than just it feels like right now, and I'm sure he has his sources, but it feels like you're connecting the dots that right now are fairly obvious. Like, he's coming off a bad postseason, or one where they had an early exit. We know, the history about the Knicks and him not going there and him being from there and all of that sort of thing. But to me, it seems extremely premature before you even play this next season, which that's what he's talking, not necessarily next. He's talking about the following year. Oh, he's going to walk. If the Cavaliers have a great year, and by great year, I don't just mean, win total regular season, like they get things together. Kobe does what he needs to do to tweak the roster. I'm not even saying great season, they win it all. Again, as I've tried to say so many times, I think people just want to assume that this happens overnight. They needed to get a 7-game playoff series. Did they need to play better than they did? Of course. But they needed to get that experience. There's only one way to get it. You can't simulate it. You got to go out and get it. And you know what? They got their asses handed to them. And that happens every now and then. But the Cavs have a good enough roster, or I should say, good enough core pieces. And I think they have Kobe Altman, who's good enough to tweak this roster and make it tougher. Plus the guys that you have, hopefully, are going to be better and more physical and tougher and all that sort of thing. But the question remains, until he does it, Donovan Mitchell, it's crazy to think like, well, of course Donovan Mitchell's the better player than Jalen Brunson. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's far. Like, if I'm a New York Knicks fan right now, and this just in, I'm not. But if I'm a Knicks fan right now, you could definitely, you can hear Knicks fans going, oh, I'll take Brunson all day. All day. And they wouldn't be, I don't think it'd be like, oh, what a homer call. Jalen Brunson is a star. Jalen Brunson not only is a star, he rose up in the postseason and did it when, seemingly they had no Julius Randle, whatever. He's more like a 3 or 4 as far as guys that you can count on that team. I don't even know if he'll be around. But you like the big man, obviously, in Mitchell Robinson. I think you like some of the younger pieces in there. Josh Hart, I love. I know he had some issues too during the playoffs. But bottom line is, it's between the Knicks and Cavs. As far as, and again, back to the original question, I want to hear from you, 216-626-7901. You can buy stock in any of the three: Philadelphia 76ers, Cleveland Cavaliers, New York Knicks. I would say right now, Philadelphia is definitely third. Because here's the thing, James Harden, I don't think, I know everybody's talking about it, so maybe I'm just piling on and prisoner of the moment, but I don't think they continue with James Harden. You can't, as much as we go back and forth, like, wow, that's James Harden. He had another huge game, had another 40-plus game. Man, he carried them. But you can't, the floor can't be that low. You can't just completely just self-destruct. And as far as Joel Embiid, I really like Joel Embiid's game. I do. But you brought up the injury concerns, and you're right. The other thing with Embiid, and I don't you feel like with Embiid, you can build around him, but like his game is his game. Like he's a back to the basket. Now, I'm not saying that that's bad. He can dominate in that fashion, but like when you look at other guys, like, oh, well, they can change their game or they can get better in this area. I think what you see is what you get, and it's pretty damn good with Joel Embiid, but I'm not buying the Sixers right now. I'm just not long term.
To your point with Joel, I feel like the offense, in order for them to be successful when he's on the floor, the offense kind of has to go through him. He's like almost
Yes.
a facilitator in a lot of ways, and he's creating a lot of opportunities, but he needs the ball in his hands to be 100% the Joel MVP that you want.
And I thought, now maybe it was frustration. I saw his press conference where he talked about, well, it can't just be me and James. I mean,
That's unfair foul.
He's not wrong. All right, well, I won't go too far with it. He's not wrong, but, dude, I mean, maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, you're just in passing, you say, but that feels too, I mean, come on. How many teams are relying on basically Batman and Robin to carry them? A lot of them, including yours. Bottom line is you had two stinkers from you two guys. It's one thing to get one and not the other and still lose, but when you get two and it's to those two and one of them's the NBA MVP and one of them's a former NBA MVP, well, that's what's going to happen. I mean, like I said, he's not wrong. You wish other guys would step up, but it's not like they didn't know that going in. It's not like all of a sudden, well, you know what? Game 7, Embiid didn't really show and Harden was a bust, and boy, I'm shocked. I mean, that's you've got to show up. That's Game 7. That's how legacies are made. That's how, that's to me right now why I would say, do I think Jalen Brunson is the better player than Donovan Mitchell? Better scorer than Donovan Mitchell? No. And he's an okay defender. He's not great. So, I mean, it's to me, that's a wash. I just feel like right now Brunson has that it factor that Donovan still has to prove, especially after this postseason. Fair or not, like it or not, still has to prove after the playoffs.
The bottom line, Chico, is that just Brunson was so much more effective in the postseason than Donovan Mitchell, and so Spida has a lot more to prove.
I like how you call him by his nickname.
I like to sprinkle in a little bit of variety.
Can you? Well, is this the
sprinkling
universal sign
gesture?
for sprinkling? Is that put a little Parmesan cheese on that?
You ever see those Salt Bay videos where he's just sprinkling the salt on the steak?
Yes. Yeah, I have seen that.
That is the Salt Bay gesture.
That is a good one. All right, so we'll throw that out there again. I'm fine saying the Cavs. I was trying to a little bit play devil's advocate because obviously I am biased a little bit. I am a homer and I love the Cavs, and I will continue to love the Cavs. And there are a lot of reasons where you could say, okay, yeah. I mean, when you look at Mobley and when you look at, Darius Garland, yeah, there's a lot of great pieces on there. But I think ultimately, if you boil it down to star for star, Donovan still has a lot to eat. And it's crazy to say for a guy that was second team All-NBA, could have very easily been first team All-NBA, averaged 29 a game. But again, this is why the playoffs are an entirely different animal. And Jalen Brunson rose to the occasion. Donovan Mitchell did not, period. All right, 216-626-7901, 216-626-7901. You can follow the show on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, and also you can follow us on YouTube, Chico Bormann Show. Hit subscribe. We're all ready to go. Coming up top of the hour, 2 o'clock, going to talk to Nick Shook, Zadarius Smith. Hello, where did that come from? Way to go, Andrew Barry. But again, just adding more fuel to that fire. You've got a lot of talent. Now more talent. The time is now. It's also time for us to step aside for a moment because you know what's next? Oh, yeah. He alluded to it. He sprinkled it in there, did Michael Bohm. It's a Michael Bohm Monday edition of Fair or Foul. You don't want to miss that. That's when we come back here on the Chico Bormann Show right here on the Big Play Network. Welcome back on a Monday. It is the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Good to have you along. Again, follow us on Twitter. We stream it every day, Monday through Friday, live 1 to 3 at Chico Show CLE and on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in the Chico Bormann Show, hit that little subscribe button. Appreciate it in advance. Coming up top of the hour, just after 2, Browns at a stud. Not a middle of the road, not a good, a great pass rusher from the Minnesota Vikings, and didn't really see that one coming, but oh my, a welcome addition. We'll talk to Nick Shook of NFL.com, so that'll come your way just after 2. But right now, oh yeah, you waited all weekend for it, kids. You got up Saturday and you're like, all right, 2 more wake-ups. And you got up Sunday and you said, 1 more wake-up. Then you woke up this morning, you said, Michael Bohm, Fair or Foul Monday on the Chico Bormann Show. Ask and you shall receive. Bohm, what do you got?
All right, Chico. Well, I want to kick it off right there with the Cleveland Browns. You mentioned that Zadarius Smith acquisition. Now, I think one of the reasons that the Browns were able to get him for such an affordable price is that looming end of contract, which it sounds like extension talks fell through with Minnesota, so they dealt him off to Cleveland. Fair or foul, and I know for me this is probably my biggest concern with surrounding Zadarius right now. Fair or foul, Zadarius will play more than 1 year with the Cleveland Browns.
I'll even go foul on that, and I don't even look at it. I'm not even looking past this year. I'm really not. Like, if they would have had to give up a lot, then that's one thing. But they didn't have to give up a lot. Would I, if he balls out, he's probably going to want top dollar. I know, and I say this all the time, trying to figure out the caps, whether it's NBA or NFL, is you need a PhD, of which I don't even have a master's, not even a bachelor's, in doing that. So I don't know how creative you can get. I just know that, he's playing for a big payday. Now, this is geared right now for this year. I don't think Andrew Berry, I could be wrong. I doubt Andrew Berry is going, well, what's going to happen? This is all about this season. I think everybody knows. Maybe not, but I think Kevin Stefanski's coaching for his job. I think Andrew Berry could be. Does it sound very lofty? Does it sound... Yeah, but you know what? This is Jimmy Haslam, and in his defense, I think he wants to see a big turnaround. Now, again, how big of a turnaround? I'm not going to put a win total on. I'm not going to put it. The AFC is very, 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 very tough, very loaded, and the Browns, if they can get into the playoffs and make some noise, that would be outstanding. But I highly doubt that they made the move going, all right, well, we got to think about long term. You didn't give up much. You got him this year. He balls out, great. Hopefully that means you had a good year. You deal with that when it comes to it. So I'll go foul just because I think if he does ball out, and I anticipate him, I hope he will, then he's probably not going to be affordable.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think you raised some interesting points. I guess I'm just all about that sustained success. But I guess any taste of success,
you got to get success before you can
take what I can get at
success.
this point. Yeah. All right. Well, let's stick with the Browns. Keep it in Berea. I came across something interesting. Bleacher Report did a redraft of the 2020 NFL draft, which, if you'll recall, that was the 4 offensive tackles.
Yes.
So Andrew Thomas going 4th overall out of Georgia. That was my favorite. But, of course, the Browns took Jedrick Wills. Now, they had their selection of Wills, Mekhi Becton, and Tristan Wirfs. You recall Becton being like a physical freak, much in the same ways as DeJuan Jones, but more polished.
Yep. You knew that Bohm was somehow
they're the same height.
Going to work in DeJuan Jones. Go ahead. I enjoyed it.
2 of the only 6'8" tackles I can think of currently in the NFL. No, there's probably a few. Yeah, but borderline 6'9". Okay, whatever. I digress. That's not the point. So anyways, in this redraft, Bleacher Report had them reselecting Jedrick Wills. So fair or foul, Chico, because back then, I mean, you had to get a left tackle. You had to get someone for that position. You were in dire need of it. Fair or foul, in this redraft, I guess, or the Browns made the right choice in choosing Wills over Wirfs and Becton.
Okay, well, I'll say this. This was my order. I did only because, and it's going to sound like, oh, yeah, revisionist history. I did like Tristan Wirfs a lot. Iowa is known as just cranking out offensive linemen, They're an offensive line factory. Kirk Ferentz, that's his history, and Kirk Ferentz goes back to Joe Moore, and they know they have the College Football Award, the Offensive Line of the Year, the Joe Moore Award. And all you heard, well, Tristan Wirfs dominated, so it wasn't like, that was a big revelation. But I will honestly tell you that I like the Jedrick Wills pick. Of the two, I wanted Wirfs and slightly more. Andrew Thomas made me really think. Like, I could see why you liked him. Like, wasn't he a 4-year starter at Georgia?
Yeah, it was. Did he not come out early?
Or 3?
It might have been a 3-year starter.
3-year starter. Okay, yeah. He started that's what it was. He started as a freshman. You're playing SEC ball like that. That's a big deal. You come in and so he was pretty much dominant from the word go when he stepped onto Georgia's campus. But you started to, hear different things, which of course you're going to hear a ton of things leading into a draft. This just in. Becton to me seemed like DeJuan Jones. They say he moves very well. Becton didn't seem to have that, or at least to the degree that I like Wirfs. I still think Jedrick Wills. We had Joe Thomas on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he says, the biggest thing he's got to do is just he's got to remain focused, play to play. Okay, you roll your eyes, but he's right, and that's a guy that knows a thing or two about playing left tackle, any position in the NFL. That said, he's been extremely frustrating. You hope that, number one, he can stay healthy because injuries have hampered him. But I think also he does have to it's now or never, right? I mean, they picked up the option, which no big surprise. It kind of gives them and gives him. But it's also they also sent that message. Remember, they waited until the last possible moment. So I'll go fair on it because it's not like I didn't want Jedrick Wills, but I did have Wirfs a little bit. He was tops on my list.
It's ironic that Wirfs wound up going last out of all 4 of those tackles, and I don't disagree with you. I was a big Tristan Wirfs fan. You remember that video of him jumping out of the pool? No, I'm just kidding. That has nothing to do with.
Well, do you remember just his workout? Yeah, he was extremely athletic, and I remember having. Here you go. We'll throw a name out. Gary Dolphin, just like the Miami Dolphins. Gary Dolphin is the long time. He's, I think, longer than Paul Keels has been doing it for Ohio State. Longtime voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Football and hoops. He's outstanding at what he does. And he came on, and of course, I know he's going to, of course he's going to pump up his guy. But he's like, I'm telling you, for all the offensive line that we talk about, and you look at with Iowa, this kid is he is unbelievably athletic. He's a great kid. He works his tail off and seems to have. So it was like after that Dolphin interview for me, it was like, okay. And again, I know that he's going to pump up his dude, but yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, went on to win a Super Bowl with Tommy B.
Not too bad.
Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. But why don't we transition to the Diamond, Chico?
Why don't we transition to the Diamond, Bohm?
It's interesting to look back in hindsight at our expectations set during the last Fair or Foul on Friday in regards to the Guardians. As I think I asked if they really wouldn't be able to turn it around against Southpaws, something along those lines.
Yeah. I was skeptical.
You were very skeptical. Well, I think it's safe to say that they exceeded expectations with those bats here in this series. Especially one Josh Naylor, but they were able to consistently, even if you didn't win all 3 games in the series, they were consistently getting run production, which I thought was very encouraging to see, Chico. So with that, obviously the big bat in that series was Josh Naylor. certainly leaves you feeling more optimistic here going forward. Fair or foul, Naylor is the spark that this team needed to ignite the offensive or the Guardians' bats.
Okay, I'll go fair on that. I mean, obviously Hosey's Hosey, but I'll say this. I think it was Jimenez that said it, that when he's going well because again, he's that infectious, about his, enthusiasm, and he wears his heart in his sleeve, his emotions on his sleeve. So yeah, I'll go fair on that because of, what we've seen in the past. He can really get them going. And, when you hear a teammate say that and one like Andres Jimenez, yeah, I think that's fair. He's got to continue it. They've got to continue it. Off day today, back at it against the Chicago White Sox. And as I said, hopefully an opportunity with the Twins, who have been playing pretty good ball lately. They've got to go face Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, and the boys in L.A. and the Dodgers. So hopefully, Guardians can make up some ground there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how you bring up Hosey, because he, the way that I guess he and Josh, the contrast in how they carry themselves. You look at Hosey, he's always like very cool, calm, collected. Josh Naylor, not afraid to express himself in those big moments. And so I think that there's something to be said about that, having the ability to motivate or inspire some guys in ways that maybe the calm, cool, collected leadership doesn't always resonate or doesn't necessarily give the slap in the face that you may need.
Well, and especially at a time like this, when they have been struggling for, seemingly so long, that when that's the guy that does it, and that just happens to be the guy that is your emotional leader, yeah. You're right. From that perspective, I'm glad you brought that up. Very well done, Bohm. Very well done. Yeah, I would say looking at it through that lens, great thing that it was Josh Naylor. Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, I got a follow-up about Joshua here, Chico, because
I don't know what it says on his birth certificate, Bohm.
Yeah, just a cheesy nickname for him from me, courtesy with all of my love.
Did you say with all of my love?
Yes. I mean it in the most endearing of sentiments.
Of course you do, yes.
Yes. So, look, Chico, this man hits some massive dingers. These balls are moonshots.
Boom, are you developing a man crush on Josh Naylor? I'm just, fair or foul, people, Bohm is developing a man crush for Josh Naylor. We'll get answers, obviously, off the air or whatever. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so is it fair or foul, Chico, to start the campaign for one Josh Naylor in this upcoming home run derby?
I don't. Yeah, that's fine. I guess you know what, Bohm? I credit you for bringing that. It's a very good question. I'd rather, and I know you're not just dismissing the games leading into that and all that good stuff, but all I'll say is I'm still so focused on them continuing this stuff that I can't even begin to. And if he continues to roll and he stays healthy, and it won't mess up the swing or anything like that. Now Booney calls that hogwash, that it messes up your swing, so I'll go with him. Then absolutely. You love to have. First of all, I think the home run derby has definitely gotten much better, much more exciting. And when it comes to other All-Star games, I don't even think it's close. But when you have your guy or a guy from your team in that, it just it just ramps up the intensity and the excitement level. So yeah, I'll go fair on that, I guess.
All right, Chico. Well, one last question for you here.
Yes, Paul.
Today's edition. So really quick, you mentioned that Lakers-Nuggets series, and I'm really looking forward to that one. I think it's a great matchup. Mm-hmm. So with that said, I think you're going to expect some pretty big performances out of guys. Fair or foul, 2 individual performances of at least 50-plus points in this Lakers versus Nuggets series.
I'm going to go foul on that. Only because The guy that I think would go for 50 is Jokic. And I think that the Lakers D, and this is putting a lot of pressure on Davis, but hey, this is what you get when you're Anthony Davis. But, I mean, and that doesn't mean that Jokic gets shut down. It just means, yeah, he actually comes back to earth a little bit and maybe scores 40. He's going to get triple-doubles. But what you want, I think if you're the Lakers, just my opinion, if you're the Lakers, you can live with Jokic getting triple-doubles. You can't live with Jokic getting triple-doubles or even double-doubles if it's 53 points and 20 boards. Like, you can't have that. So I'm going to go foul that Jokic absolutely goes off. Could somebody from the Lakers, could LeBron? Yeah, I mean, you never want to count out LeBron, and AD is not. So, yeah, the only guy.
Could Jokic do it twice, though?
Twice in the same series?
Sure.
I don't think he's going to do it once.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to do it once, so I don't think he's going to do it twice. Maybe 3 times he could.
Not once, not twice, but certainly 3 times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bum, I don't even think you were listening to anything I said right there. That's okay.
I was trying to get prepared for our guest,
Yes, and that's good preparation. I just texted him, and I believe Nick Shook is ready to go, NFL.com. So we will step aside. When we come back, a very, very welcome addition, if not a bit of a surprise for many of us Browns fans, finding out Zadarius Smith comes over from the Vikings in a trade with old pal in the front office. So we'll talk to Nick Shook about that, his thoughts on the schedule release, and, well, his thoughts in general on those Cleveland Browns. That's all coming your way next. The Chico Bormann Show on a Monday with you till 3 o'clock. I almost said 2 o'clock, but that would mean we don't have Nick. We do have Nick until 3 right here on the Big Play Network. Back live on the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Network. Good to have you along. Follow us on Twitter at Chico Show CLE and on YouTube, Chico Bormann Show. Hit that subscribe button. Well, They like to say sun's out, guns out. And in my mind, nobody exemplifies sun's out, guns out. Although, of course, what is he doing at a maybe where he's at? It's not as warm. I don't know where. Nick Shook joining us from NFL.com. He's already shaking his head. He's like, why did I agree to this? Nick Shook, NFL.com. You can also see him. He says a little bit of TV. Don't be modest. He's a TV darling. Nick, it's great to have you here on the Chico Bormann Show. What is the temp? Are you in Cleveland or are you in LA?
Yeah.
You're in Cleveland. Okay.
Where I'm at, I'm down the road from you.
This should be. Well, I didn't know if you made the move yet. I didn't know what would
I made the move, but it's in Cleveland, baby. We're a remote worker here. All right, this is home base.
Right.
And the weather, as you know, what are we looking at? About 60 degrees, 64 according to my phone right now.
That's
breezy.
Sleeveless for you though. That's not
I was sleeveless, but I'm trying to hide the guns for a professional appearance here. I can't be in my cutoff. Honestly, I have an NFL branded cutoff under this right here.
Professional.
But,
did you forget? Did you think this was an Andrew Siciliano appearance and not?
Look, man, you can't go sleeveless. I wear no sleeves often enough. Sometimes you got to put something on to look professional, presentable more than professional.
Boom. If I had Shook's guns, I would walk into a grocery store. With no shirt, I'd make them say, so you're gonna have to leave. What? Why? We have a no shirt, no like Kenny Chesney song, no shirt, no shoes, no sir.
Oh yeah.
But look at my Nick Shook guns. I have to stay.
I'll tell you this: I went to the Cavs playoff game, to the first one against the Knicks, game 1, and if you recall, that was an unusually balmy Saturday in Cleveland. I wore shorts and a basketball jersey. It was actually a Colin Sexton jersey because I haven't invested in any new jerseys since Darius Garland, and did not wear anything under the jersey. Went full guns out. Had a Knicks fan chirping in my ear the whole time. Guy on my other side of me, he's like, man, I'll tell you what, he doesn't want to mess with you because, the arms and everything. But I'm not afraid to show him, not here.
But he wasn't joking. That guy probably. I mean, I don't know who that, unless that guy was like Julius Randle. I think I like your chances there.
He was a kid that was clearly from Jersey.
Okay, so let me start. We're going to talk plenty of football, but I mean, you follow the hoops and certainly the Cavs. And I posed a question in the first hour. The Sixers got eliminated. We know what happened between the Knicks and the Cavs. You're going to buy stock in one team, or you can actually place them in order. I think that's what we did. You can buy stock in one team: Sixers, Cavs, Knicks. In what order are you buying that stock?
Oh, Sixers are last for sure because they have the talent. They have not gotten over the hump.
Agreed.
And I don't care if you have an MVP. The way that without a coaching change, because they clearly gave up. The body language is terrible in some of those last few games. James Harden's not getting any younger. I think Tyrese Maxey's a good player and Embiid's an MVP, but they're missing something. Jimmy Butler. If I had to pick between the Knicks and the Cavs have to get tougher. They have more talent than the Knicks. The Knicks are not that good of a basketball team. They out-physicaled them and out-coached them. And that's why they lost that series. The Cavs have more talent. And they got to get tougher, and they got to be better prepared and better at adjusting in a playoff series than they were. They looked like a team that hadn't been to the playoffs. They looked like JB Bickerstaff looked like a coach that hadn't been in the playoffs. And the only guy on the team that had any real playoff experience, not Jared Allen, who melted under the pressure, was Donovan Mitchell. And when he laid that clunker down in game 4 in New York, that pretty much sealed their fate. So they got to get tougher. They got to get more resilient. But if I had to pick between those two and their trajectory, because I think some changes are going to come to the Knicks. Some Cavs need to make some changes too on their bench.
Yep.
I would still go with the Cavs because they're top end talent.
Okay. And that's fair. And I said, basically, to me, it's a coin flip. I took kind of playing devil's advocate. Now, as soon as you were going the Cavs route, I saw Bohm burning a hole right through me, staring at me take that, Chico, Shooks with me. Here's what I said, and you tell me if I'm off here.
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell is, obviously the guy's incredible. Probably should have been first team All NBA. But when I match up him and Jalen Brunson answered the bell and then answered the bell and then answered the bell some more. And look, you can have a bad series, but I feel like right now, until Donovan Mitchell in a Cavs uniform does that, hopefully next year, that I got to give the nod to the guy that has proven it in Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, if we're going pound for pound, one-on-one, I'm taking Donovan Mitchell over Jalen Brunson.
Sure.
But that does not mean that's no knock on Jalen Brunson. I gained an immense amount of appreciation and respect for him in this series because of the way he played, the way he was practically unguardable in the mid-range, unless you had a longer defender like a Karis LeVert on him. He was unguardable. The way he came through in clutch moments time and time again. Kid's tough. He's scrappy. He's a guy you want to go to war with. I have all the appreciation in the world for him. I think he's a great player. I would still go with Mitchell because of what I've seen over his career. He's more athletic. He's probably the second best Cavs player in the franchise history, even at this point. But you're right. He needs to prove it in the playoffs, which he hasn't. I tell you what, I would love to have them both on the same team.
Ooh,
that's for sure.
Brunson's fun to watch, man. I love watching that guy
is.
play. All right, we're talking to Nick Shook, NFL.com. See, he's not a one-trick pony, kids. Yeah, he's very, very diverse. Let's talk a little Browns football. Okay, you would be, I mean, for me to say, wow, I didn't see that coming, and other buddies of mine to say I didn't see that one coming. But you are in the business. You certainly are in the know. How much of a surprise was Zadarius Smith landing with the Cleveland Browns for you?
Not much. If you looked at this roster, and we talked about this in the last month or two, it felt incomplete on their front seven. It felt like they'd done a lot. They had turned a lot of that roster over. They'd added depth, everything that you need to operate under Jim Schwartz's direction. But they hadn't added that veteran guy to put across from Myles Garrett. They just didn't. Obo Okoronkwo is going to be great, but it's not that's well, great. He's going to be solid, but he's not a guy that I felt comfortable where you plug and play and say, that's a quality, experienced veteran starter who's going to be productive. Zadarius Smith is that guy. And the reason it wasn't surprising to me is you have the Minnesota connection between Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Andrew Berry. Of course, Kwesi used to work in Cleveland's front office. And you also have the fact that the Vikings are in this weird spot where they won 13 games last year, but they probably should have started to turn their roster toward a younger group last year, and they didn't. Kirk Cousins last year of his deal, right? There's a number of guys on this team. You saw it, Michael Kendrick's departure, players like that. Adam Thielen being another one. They let Patrick Peterson walk to the Saints. They're not the team going for the one-year veterans anymore we're going to try and go win a championship. They're stuck in this middle ground where I think you're going to see them shift even more next year than they did this offseason. So that's a guy who was on the books for like $21 million next year, according to his contract, because it was a 3-year deal and this was year 2. They move him. He restructures. He gets what's essentially a Jadeveon Clowney deal, which is 1 year, $11 million. He gets to come play across from Myles Garrett. No, by the way, he had 10 sacks last year. This is a guy who's had double-digit sacks in 3 of his last 4 seasons. The only reason he didn't have them in 2021 was because he was hurt and missed almost the entire season. Got hurt in the first game of the year. So productive veteran, probably doesn't have a lot left in the tank over the next 3 to 4 years, but that's not what the Browns are looking for. They're looking for a guy that they can go in there now and hit double-digit sacks opposite Myles Garrett. And as long as he's healthy, then you have quite a formidable pass rushing duo between those two.
And unlike Jadeveon Clowney, I don't think his attitude would be like, well, you know what? You guys are scheming to get Myles Garrett like that. That just I still can't let that go, Nick. Like that. I've said this to you before. I'll say it again hundreds of times. To me, that comment, whether it was just out of frustration, he didn't mean it, he did mean it, to me was like the Browns in a nutshell last year. Like that.
Yes.
You got to get you have me guys like that, and a guy that comes in as one of the major acquisitions. You're asking for trouble with that.
Honestly, I felt like they've had that type of locker room for the last 4 years, really. Going back to the year they got Odell, and it wasn't Odell that was the problem. It's just that John Dorsey at the time had built a locker room full of me-first guys, some locker room cancers. I'm not going to name anybody, but I could name a few.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just carried over. You had a regime change, but those guys still kind of lingered. There was division within the locker room. A lot of people just focused on themselves. Not a lot of team, not a ton of team guys. You had some, but most of those team guys aren't the lead with their voice. They're more lead by example types, the Nick Chubb types, for example. And that's also who Clowney has kind of been through his career. This is a number 1 overall pick who ended up, bouncing around to a few different destinations. He took notoriously long to make a free agency decision in each of the last 3 years. Went to Tennessee, fired his agent, realized he wanted to be in Cleveland. That, was okay from the first year, but ultimately he's a guy who's out to serve his own purpose, which you have to be when you're an NFL player and you're trying to maximize your earning potential. But when it comes to the team and when things aren't going well, those are the first guys that usually fall off the ship is, all right, well, we're falling off the wagon here. We're done. The first guys that kind of just quit and say, hey, it's not going my way, whatever. That's not a culture that you want. And And I do hear some validity in his complaints because Joe Woods was not a good defensive coordinator for them last year. But also, if it's because you're scheming to get the other guy going, that guy is one of the best players in the league. Of course, you're going to scheme to get him going because he can make more of an impact than you. And if it hurts you, so be it. But it's also kind of what you signed up for. So it's good to kind of get rid of that from a Browns perspective. Say goodbye. Thank you for your service and everything else. We're moving on. And I don't think Zadarius Smith at 30 years old is going to be that guy, but we'll see.
Nick Shook, NFL.com, Northeast Ohio native, proud St. Vincent St. Mary graduate, joining us here on the Chico Bormann Show. Okay, so I really enjoyed, and I'll plug it again, but NFL.com, you guys went through, you and some of your colleagues went through each and every schedule. I was happy to see you weighing in on the AFC North, in particular the Cleveland Browns. First blood, we heard a lot of people say, oh, easy slate, and of course you never really know until the games get going. But on the surface, people saying, I heard ranks 25th, 27th, whatever, out of 32 teams. What were your initial thoughts when the schedule came out as far as the Browns were concerned?
That first month, I think that's the prevailing thought that everybody's had. It's that first month, 3 division games in 4 weeks, one on prime time on a short week in Pittsburgh. That's tough. That's really tough. That would be tough for a team that's the defending division champion that figured it all out offensively. That's not who they are. They still have to spend this entire spring, summer process figuring out how they're going to run this offense, getting Deshaun Watson comfortable instead of throwing him in there and with all the visible rust he had last year, and getting this receiving core, which has been partially rebuilt, acclimated as well. So it's going to be an immediate test. And it kind of gives me a bit of a reminder of the 2019 season when they loaded them up with primetime games. Like the first 6 weeks, there's like 3 or 4 primetime games because it was like, all right, they're the hot topic. We're going to get them, right in front of the national audience. And if they go down in a ball of flames, then we don't have to see them the rest of the year, which is what they did. And so it all followed suit. It's not that they're on primetime all the time. It's just that, like, hey, you can really bury yourself in the first month if you don't go win some football games. So it's going to be all about preparation. I think that home opener, the kickoff game, week 1 against Cincinnati, is going to be highly anticipated in this city. I think about the Cincinnati game on Halloween last year, which was initially when Watson was supposed to return, then didn't end up returning. That was still a pretty high energy game. At that point, I was thinking the Browns might lay down, and they came out and had their best game of the season. So you put that in week 1, Joe Burrow, a guy who has not won in Cleveland in his career, has only beaten them once in his career, and that was in Cincinnati. It's already an important game because it's opening weekend. It's even more important because it's against the defending division champions. But if you get to that first month, let's say you get 2-2, you're okay. 3-1, you're flying high. 4-0, my God, you're winning the Super Bowl.
The Muni lot the Muni lot's just going nuts, even if they did double the rates for people.
Yeah.
No comment.
Well, you got to develop the lakefront somehow. 1-3 or 0-4, you're in a tough spot, real tough spot. So they got to avoid that. And then from there, it's just kind of an up and down schedule throughout, and it gets tough at the end as well. But the first month, I think, is crucial more than ever for this team.
Nick, how much? This is just something I was thinking about when the schedule did get released. I had read or heard somewhere that Kevin Stefanski had petitioned the league to say, hey, can we get? I think it was the Seahawks and LA back to back, and I guess he wanted to stay out in LA as opposed. And he said, no holidays as far as that's concerned. Those 2 weeks. How often do coaches do that? I'm just sheer curiosity. How often do coaches do that? How often does the league oblige?
It's 50-50 because essentially, they didn't, kind of get that. I think about the Shanahan teams in the past. They usually stay in like Youngstown, San Francisco, when they do like an East Coast swing. They stay in like the Youngstown area, depending on where it is. Or they, the Saints or another team would stay like the Greenbrier and that type of thing. It's pretty common because you want to limit travel, first off, and you also don't want to break routine so much. I mean, I remember when I was with the Browns, we went to San Francisco, Santa Clara, business parks with a stadium in the middle of it. And for Monday night and get absolutely obliterated. And then you have to fly back 5 hours. And those charter jets go pretty fast. They're going faster than your average commercial airliner. And you still didn't get back until like 7 a.m. And it's Tuesday. Like your week prep has already begun. There's no time to recover.
Yep.
So for them to save that time for travel, because sleeping on a plane is terrible, no matter what kind of plane it is. I think it makes a lot of sense for recovery, which we continue to emphasize more and more across all sports. So it's not a surprise that I think that they would want to, explore that. But I think it's really 50, because ultimately, what are you going to do? A coach's preference and a coach's request, or make the master schedule work with prime time? Because you know how many different factors are involved in schedule making. I mean, it's massive. You have scheduling conflicts in individual venues. You're trying to sort out with prime time slots. You're trying to do, make the best matchups possible. You're trying to deal with schedule requirements, whether it's rotation divisions, all this other stuff. It's really hard to get that in line. So, sometimes you just don't get what you want.
OBJ didn't seem to have any problems sleeping on a plane. From what I hear,
No comment.
No comment. That's a good answer. All right, Nick Shook, NFL.com. In closing, as far as the Browns are concerned, I think, we talk about the roster, and, it's definitely, I won't say do or die, but yeah, I mean, it really is. They've got to make some big progress this year. Now you bring in Zadarius Smith. The one thing I do like, and, I know I used to be that one of those guys that, man, it'd be nice to get some primetime games and just to give the fans something. Now, I don't care. Like, you know what?
Yeah, it's good.
Have them, they have the early ones, so they get to go out to, I think it was Greenbrier in West Virginia. I don't know. You can roll your eyes at that and say, oh, well, they're going to build team chemistry. It can't hurt. And this is a team that absolutely needs it. So I am all for, especially after last year and certainly the offseason leading into last year, I am totally fine with the Browns just kind of being an afterthought, whether it be primetime football, whether it be, off the field news. Just get ready for that first game out of the gate against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, you don't want to be the team in the spotlight. Not right now, because you don't want to be the Jets. You don't want to be the Broncos of last year, because any error, any faltering early in the season, it's so much worse. The effects it has on the entire organization are so much worse, because you come into the season with such high hopes and expectation. And even if football's a week by week thing, it's not like you can get up and go play. Well, baseball, we'll just go play again tomorrow, flush it, we'll move on. You got a whole week to deal with this stuff. No matter how much you insulate yourself, you're feeling that pressure. You get out to an 0-4 start, you're in a bad spot, man. You're desperate for wins. You don't want to be that team. You want to be the team that nobody cares about, that maybe a few people will be like, that roster's pretty good. It might be able to, scrape out more wins than you think and end up in the playoffs. That's who they were in 2020 when they won a playoff game. Now, of course, we were dealing with the pandemic. People couldn't go to games, everything else. But that's who you want to be ultimately, is a team that nobody expects to do that much, so that when you do score a few wins, you're not hearing, you're hearing, oh, they won, but they're going to overlook you until you get to the playoffs. If you don't, if you lose those games, you're not hearing, they're flukes. They're a disappointment. The only downside is this city's always going to be very, very geared up for the Browns. It's just that the energy, the excitement. I'll never forget 2019, man. That energy in that stadium was insane then. And it was insane, I think, to start 2021 coming off of that playoff season of 2020. Plus, everybody got to go back in the stadium after the pandemic. But more often than not, especially with this team, because you have a quarterback who's not cemented. He's a good player, but he's not cemented in his role because he's still new. You want to be the team that people aren't paying attention to. Start stacking up the wins, make them pay attention to you, not the vice versa.
Not to open up, an old wound, but you mentioned 2019. I remember being on the air that week, and I mean, I was giddy too, and I just remember getting calls from people like on Wednesday, like, yeah, we're in town. We just, we took an RV, kind of like you would do for like a college, SEC game. The RV comes in, they do the whole week. That's how excited people were.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Mike Vrabel and the Titans were like, yeah, hey guys, I know I'm from Northeast Ohio here. I hate to ruin your party, but yeah, they just got depantsed on national television.
Yeah. Turns out you're not as good as you thought. There were people calling in saying, I've booked my hotel at the Clevelander in South Beach where the Super Bowl was that year. In August. You don't want to be that team. You don't want to be that team.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. All right, real quick before I get you out of here, I couldn't help but notice you kind of jam into the tunes there when you were we were on hold waiting.
Your tunes.
Yeah, well, Bohm. Bohm's the guy. He has the taste in music and all that stuff. But I got to ask you a question. First of all, and you're all too familiar with this from our days long time ago in a galaxy far and away working together, that, occasionally my pop culture skills or knowledge will be put to the test, and oftentimes
Fountains of Wayne. Chico.
Oftentimes that test will be failed miserably. Have you seen the movie Star Wars?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a Star Wars fan. I was going to ask.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Okay, because I do know people, like there are folks that have said, no, I've never seen Star Wars, so I don't necessarily feel guilty about that. I mean, I get it. It's kind of egregious, so I have no problem with that. But something happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and I still have not been able to live it down. And you know what? I'm okay with it because you would know what this is. I don't know. Maybe you don't know what it is, but I was buddy of mine was going to Columbus in this fall, I guess.
Okay.
And he shouts at me kind of, over, there was music playing, whatever, at the gym. And he's like, hey, you want to go to Columbus this fall? And I'm like, first soccer game? He's like, no, Wu-Tang. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that a soccer team? And he's like, you're kidding, right? I'm like, I don't know. I knew. See,
Chico.
This is what I got. I had never, I really, and maybe I heard a song. I had never ever, honest to God, had never heard of Wu-Tang Clan.
When were you in college?
93 to 98.
Oh my God, it was their heyday.
That's what everybody.
How did you miss that?
I was too busy jamming to Dave Matthews and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
She wakes up in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. You're a big ants marching guy?
Oh, yeah. I love
into me. Yeah.
Typical situation. Crash into me gets them really. Crash into me, I think, gets them going more than Wu-Tang Clan, but that's just me. I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I don't peg you as a big rap guy. So that makes sense. You were a person of your era. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, I was big into rap in like the 2000s. I was at brewery down the street yesterday, and they had MTV Classics on, right? And they're playing like Green Day music videos from like 2004. And I'm like, man, this is good. And it's not that I didn't know it, but I was just like ignoring it because I'm into like Southern rap, T.I., Young Jeezy, those at that time, whatever it was.
Smiling and nodding his head. He loves it.
Lil Wayne, that like 50 Cent, I'd go out west, The Game, Dr. Dre, whatever. I wasn't paying attention to like Green Day and like Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. I came back to that later. So I think it's on you to come back to Wu-Tang now.
Well, I was told.
Cream, you don't know Cream? Cash rules everything around me.
No, it's the dollar.
Cream, get the money.
Is that the dollar bill?
Bills,
yeah. So that was what everybody was saying to me, and I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Protect Your Neck. That's another one. Oh man, we could do this for ages. Yeah, go listen to Wu-Tang for the love of God.
Well, I'm gonna go. It's on my Hulu thing ad list. There's a documentary or something on it, so I'm gonna.
Oh, that's good. It's like a drama. It's not a documentary. It's like a drama that explains their formation of it. It's really good.
But it's good.
Okay. Definitely enjoy that.
I'll check that out. I'll give you a report soon. He is Nick Shook, NFL.com. You can follow him on Twitter at the Nick Shook. Make sure we get the clip of Nick's reaction as soon as because that was exactly the reaction I've had from every single person.
It's been marked.
Yeah, it has been marked. Nick, you're the man. Appreciate the time as always, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
I love being on, Chico. See you later. Thanks, man.
That is Nick Shook, again, Northeast Ohio native. Proud to be from Akron and St. Vincent, St. Mary. And, yeah, that was pretty bad. A little more, just another exclamation point on that. Yeah. All right, we will take a break. When we come back, anything that we've talked about, you want to chime in, 216-626-7901. Throughout that NBA question for you, you're buying stock. The Sixers, the Knicks, the Cavaliers. Try to be objective, but even if you're objective and say the Cavs, that's fine too. Try to be objective. How would you rank each one of those? We'll talk more about the NBA playoffs upcoming. Got the Guardians, again, winning another series. And now getting ready for Chicago. We'll talk about that. And speaking of the NBA, one guy just doesn't seem to get it. No matter what he says, no matter what he tells you, he doesn't seem to get it. We'll talk about that next. Chico Bormann Show until 3 right here on the Big Play Network. And welcome back, Chico Bormann Show on this Monday. Good to have you along. We'll get back into the NBA here in just a moment. Want to remind you, though, this continues for the entire month of May. Swing for the fences. The MLB tournament is here on Tipico Sportsbook for the entire month. The more you bet, the more you score, literally. Make $20 MLB bets on baseball with odds of at least minus 200. Could be straight bets, parlays, same game parlays, all sorts of ways. The top 100 bettors on the leaderboard will win a share of $100,000 in bonus bets on us for an entire year. I feel like that deserves a repeat. The top 100 bettors on the leaderboard will win a share of $100,000 in bonus bets on us for an entire year. Download Tipico Sportsbook with promo code Chico, that's CHICO, to get started and start betting on baseball today. Could have won some money with little Josh Naylor action. Hey there, Bo. Yeah.
Hindsight is always 2020.
Thank you, Bo. Guardians, speaking to them, win another series. Good stuff there. They will take on the Chicago White Sox beginning tomorrow night. Meantime, trailing the Minnesota Twins, who unfortunately have been playing some good ball themselves, so not able to catch up a whole lot in the standings. But the Twins playing the LA Dodgers beginning tonight. So Dodgers, obviously, as we know, loaded, and, well, we'll see what happens. So we can do a little scoreboard watching while the Guardians are off tonight. All right, 216-626-7901. This story, when this story about Ja Morant came over, about him in an I think it was Instagram video. He was showing a gun, and my understanding was, fill in the details, but the Instagram that he was on, or the account that he was on, was somebody with, like, I don't know, 100 followers, so it'd be like someone like me. And then the photo appeared, or the video appeared with him in it, obviously flashing the gun, and then it just went viral, and then so here we are. Now, if you're saying to yourself, and honestly, this is what I was saying to myself, why are they playing this again? Like, why is this news again? Like, didn't they? He just did this in March. Like, I think it was first week of March, and then they had, the fallout, and there was, the suspension or whatever, and so, and he said everything he was supposed to say. Didn't make it right, but I like the fact that he owned it. I like the fact that he said, the thing that really hurts me the most, and a lot of times you'll hear guys say this, is not so much a monetary fine, because this just in, they have plenty of this, dollar bills, Wu-Tang, they have plenty of dollar bills. Thank you, Bo.
Dollar bills.
Yeah, they got dollar bills. But so they got plenty of that. It's when you take them away, you take away basketball, and not so much, oh, well, I can't play hoops, but you should feel like you're being selfish, like you're slighting your teammates, because, well, you are. And oftentimes that is what will get an athlete or anybody, even everyday stuff. Wow, I'm screwing the people that I care about, people that I'm working with, or my family. So he said not long ago, this is, what is today, May 15th, Bohm? Look at me, I'm all over it. Little more than 2 months ago, it was about 2 months ago, because it happened early in March, and then he made the statement a couple weeks later. So 2 months removed, and here we are again. I mean, I honestly, when I saw it, and I couldn't hear the volume, I could just see it on the big screen, and looking at him like, why are they showing this again? Like, is it, they're replaying something? I didn't know what it was. It's because he did it again. The Grizzlies announced a suspension from all team activities after a video showing the star guard holding a gun began circulating on social media on Saturday night. Grizzlies announced the suspension, which, by the way, also is pending a league review, in a statement on Sunday. 2 months, that's right, 2 months, 60 days after the NBA suspended Morant over a similar incident, the team did not provide further comment. Look, I know, believe it or not, I was young once too. And even when I wasn't young, I've made some stupid mistakes in my life. But unfortunately, when too much is given, much is expected, and, okay, you messed up once, it's still a very big deal, because, again, you are a superstar. You are the face of your franchise. You are a huge investment for your organization, hell, for the city, everything. So, but I thought, okay, it looked very, very bad, but he learned his lesson. He did. And I mean, the thing that's really sad about this is Ja Morant is easily one of the most talented players in the NBA. No doubt, one of the most talented players. Now, you talk about, is it too much him or what? Memphis, a lot of bark, no bite. We saw that, Dylan Brooks and company, but that's not necessarily Morant's fault. But he is. I remember saying, and it wasn't that long. It was last year. Whenever it was early in the season last year, not this past season, but the season before, when Ja Morant and Darius Garland hooked up, and I remember people saying, not just here in Cleveland or not just in Memphis, like, around the NBA saying, man, can you imagine these two guys clashing for years to come? This was before Donovan Mitchell came into the fold, but still, it still holds true. Wow, those are two of the bright young point guards in the game. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Morant. Now, he was, at that time, he was suspended 8 games after meeting with Commissioner Silver, Adam Silver, who called, and this is 2 months ago, called Morant's conduct, quote, irresponsible, reckless, and potentially very dangerous. And he does it all over again. I don't know, Bo. They're saying a very lengthy suspension. And again, I'm not saying that, you just, lock him up, throw away the key. But clearly, I think, even if you are one that is very optimistic, even if you are one, and I am to some degree, about second chances and, hey, young guys make mistakes, you can't disagree that he obviously didn't get the lesson. It went one ear out the other, said what he needed to say, all right, get off my back, and then 60 days later doing it again.
It felt like even his friend knew that he shouldn't be doing that. Like the way that he hid the camera the instant that he realized what Ja was doing.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed that, but so first he made the fake gun sign, but then Ja actually whips out the real gun. I just, it's disappointing. It feels reckless.
It is
lack
reckless.
of self-awareness there. And how many wake-up calls is it going to take?
And you know what? And I'm sure he's probably thinking to himself, and I'm not going to pretend to get in his head, but I guess that's what I'm going to do right now. It's my buddy. He does. It's not like it's my Instagram account. It's not like, all my followers. I'm speaking in Ja Morant's point of view. Like, it's somebody else's, and he doesn't even have that many. But again, and this is why, the lessons and all that comes with when you go to the NBA, when you go to the NFL, Major League, any of it, they try to just drill into your head, like, dude, even if you were big man on campus, as many of these guys were if they went to college, this is totally different. Okay. Now, you had to be careful then. You certainly had to be very careful leading up to the drafts, whatever draft it was, because they're going to scrub it and they're going to try to find anything. But you can't. I know somebody will say, well, he didn't know that his buddy. What are you even doing with a gun in the first place? And before anyone says, and I know it's coming, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but where he was at, he legally has that gun. Great. You don't need to flash it. I don't care if you are allowed to have the gun. I don't care if it's registered. I don't care if it's registered 8 times. I don't care. You just 2 months ago, you just had this come up and you said everything you needed to say, but now it's that idea that, oh, you know what? He made a mistake. He'll learn from it. Goes right out the window because 60 days later, you did the exact same thing. And now it's going to be costly.
Yeah, Chico. And I really wonder, what could he possibly say to convince anyone that he's seriously a changed person after this? And there's nothing wrong with any pro athlete owning a gun legally. But when you do flash it like that, it suggests that perhaps you're a thrill seeker, someone seeking trouble, that you're not just flaunting it around for nothing. You're showing it off for a reason. And so it gives off a bad image that obviously the NBA wants no part of.
Well, and the other thing is too, you had it happen 60 days ago. Okay. And you made that mistake. You said what you said, whatever, and hopefully you moved on. Clearly he did not. But even at some point, you said, his buddy, you could tell, and I don't want to, you don't want to speak for his friend or whatever, but you could tell even his buddy's like, oh no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And well, he does it. But as you mentioned, and I didn't even realize that, he flashed like the gun with his fingers and then says, "Oh, no, I'm not playing around. I got the real thing. Here it is." Like, what are you doing? And I don't, like, when you say lengthy, would it be half a season? Somebody's going to say, "It's all right, fellas. Hey, do what you need to do. You got to turn out the lights. It's no big deal." I mean, I'd like to think, Bohm, we were having a decent show, but apparently an hour and 45 minutes into the show, they say, "Get out of here. Don't let the door hit you in the ass, Chico."
Yes, in rock concerts, typically that means curtains. You're done.
They're taking down the stage. Get out of here. The stage is coming down. Get out of here.
Mic's off. That's it. You're done.
We just had Big Dave and Nick come in, and they're doing work. They are doing work with the studio. A lot of stuff going on here at Big Play. But I don't know. It's just like, you take a guess. How long do you think the suspension is? Because I guarantee you, Silver knows that everybody's looking at him. I mean, Silver knows that everybody's, okay, how's he going to react to this? Like, I think even if it was a year or two after, he'd still come down hard. But 60 days? It's almost like he just said, whatever. I think Silver's coming down real hard on him. Real hard on him.
You think hard more than half the season? Upwards of 41 games?
I think half the season.
40 to 50?
Yep.
Yeah.
He got 8 last time, but it's not just doing it again. It's doing it again 60 days later. I mean, yeah, your point is well taken. Like, what could he possibly say? Oh, now I'm sorry. Oops. Well, you can't say that. And yeah, I'm sure
I really mean it this time.
I'm sure you regret it. But Adam Silver's coming down hard. He has to, and he will. All right, let me ask you a question, too. We were talking about the 76ers, and they, of course, fall in great fashion. Uh-oh, here they come. The Destroyers are back, Boom. Look out. Our lights are coming off. The cameras are going down. Anyway, 76ers fall to the Celtics in a big way. I understand, like, people are kind of giving Doc Rivers a hard time because they're asking Doc Rivers, like, his future with the team, and he has, 2 more years to go. Is apparently what he's saying, like, hey, I have 2 years left. I have no problem with that. I mean, Doc's response, A, he's not going to be happy. B, of course he's going to say that about his contract. My question to you is, we're talking about James Harden, who's probably gone. Doc Rivers, I mean, I can't see where Doc Rivers, I think some things are going to be changed. Just like, and we'll get to Phoenix in a second, just like we talk about Phoenix, I think if Doc Rivers is back, hello, Nick. How we doing? Nick's
content.
Filming. Everybody good? Content.
We're making good content here, Chico.
That's what I'm here for until the lights go out. Anyway.
We have a guest coming in that needs to sit here.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. Hey, I'm just a host, man. I'm just kidding.
It's going to be a quick turnaround into reflog filming tonight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got reflog tonight at 9 too. Yeah, absolutely. So okay, real quick, back to Doc Rivers. Yay, I think he's, and I like him, but I think he's gone.
So
I'm not saying it's all his fault, but this is what happens.
Do you think he's gone? You think he's gone before those 2 years, or after 2 years?
Oh, I think now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying if Monty Williams can get fired from Phoenix, and by the way, there's a lot surfacing there about. First of all, that wasn't the GM's call, right? We know who made that call. Ishbia, or the owner that took the flop. That's definitely his call, no doubt. And then somebody pointed out, I didn't realize this. I'm not scanning the floor for A-list celebrities. I should be. I might actually find Wu-Tang Clan in a game. But did you notice who has been sitting next to the Suns owner, Matt Ishbia, for the better part, I would say, like the second half of the season and definitely through the playoffs?
Who might that be?
His nickname is Zeke.
Zeke. but not Elliott.
Not, of course. I've got to clarify with Bones. He's like, Ezekiel
owner-
Elliott? Really? That's awesome. I think he'd make a great GM, Chico. Why is that? Because
So
he
random.
played for the Buckeyes. Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Isaiah Thomas, former Pistons great, didn't exactly fare very well in the Last Dance. Because I get the sense that if Monty Williams is going to go, and again, I'm just speculating here, but if Monty Williams is going to get fired, and I know they flamed out pretty good, and wow, you got Durant, but it feels like as impulsive as that move, Ishbia didn't waste any time getting Kevin Durant. Well, now you get ousted, and so it feels like that's more of an owner call than a GM call. So now if that domino is going to fall, I get the sense that the next domino is, well, if the head coach is out, and that probably wasn't the GM's call, the GM's probably out, could we be looking at Isaiah Thomas returning as the general manager of your Phoenix Suns?
First off, Chico, how would you evaluate his first tenure as general manager back in his Knickerbocker days?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good. Now, in fairness, everybody has something to learn there. I mean, it ain't easy to do. And just because, and we always think, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, we automatically always think that this is, well, hey, he's played the game. He knows it. Sometimes that can be a detriment. Okay, I don't know. And plus, remember, Zeke had some tomfoolery and shenanigans within the office place.
Yeah, and my theory with that, with like players who, former players in executive roles, is that a lot of times they're looking for players who have qualities that they value within themselves. They're looking for a certain style of thing that they liked about when they were playing the game that they think translates and can be effective today. And I think that there's almost a bias to it when you have a former player in that seat. Now, certainly it has its advantages. They're obviously going to have insight that people who have never stepped foot on a hard court will ever gain. But it goes both ways, and I think you see just how well Kobe Altman is doing, that you don't need to play in the NBA to be effective. Meanwhile, we see all these executives who are former players, and they're struggling.
I don't understand. I understand, and he hasn't been fired. I understand if Doc Rivers does get fired, okay? And they're saying, Ty Lue and Ty Lue maybe, who knows? But like, Monty Williams didn't deserve to be fired. I understand that, you went out and got Kevin Durant for a reason. Okay, I totally get it. But, DeAndre Ayton laid an egg. Like, that's not on Monty Williams, I don't think. But, if you're going to make that move, and again, I could be wrong. Maybe the GM said, yeah, but it feels like Ishbia 100%. And like I said, I didn't realize somebody mentioned it in a DM to me about Isaiah Thomas. I'm like, wait, that Isaiah Thomas? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. Because again, remember, he also had some, maybe it happened so long ago, it's not really a fodder anymore, the issues that he had within but that's a big Monty Williams can coach. I think Monty Williams, now, has he had his moments? Every single coach does. It's like what we said with J.B. Bickerstaff. Now, same thing happens next year. Okay, now you can start saying that. Greg Popovich is like, they all are going to get out-coached to some degree. And it's going to happen. But, man, that seems like, I know it's the business. I know it's like, hey, it's results-oriented. You don't get it done, fair, unfair, you're gone. But, man, Ishbia, it feels so impulsive. But the idea, I think I'm more intrigued now with Monty Davis out. I'm almost like, would he really bring in Zeke? Because it feels like the GM's going to go too. Would he bring Isaiah Thomas in as the general manager?
And to your point, Chico, honestly, I think Doc Rivers is a more justifiable firing than Monty Williams is.
Yeah.
And look, both of these teams, I think they've fallen short of expectations. But with the 76ers, it feels like just to a far larger extent. And the Suns, would be more enticed to cut Monty some leeway, I guess. Give him a longer leash.
Monte. I feel like Colin Montgomery. That's what they call the golfer. Monte.
Well, when you work in such a guy who's going to have the ball so frequently as Kevin Durant and be so involved in that offense, getting him at the trade deadline, Chico, I think that's a process that maybe they had not totally figured out yet, that like next season, maybe they could have put it all together. And Monty Williams, I mean, up to this point, he's coach of the year at least once with this Suns team. I think you had a lot of reason to feel good about him. Now, new owner coming in, Ishbia, maybe he wants his guy, but I don't see how any billionaire owner could be rushing to line up to get Isaiah Thomas into a new regime.
I wouldn't either, but then I also can't ignore that he's sitting next to him for all of these games, and like it's his right hand if he sits next to him on the right side, or his left hand man.
Stage left, stage right.
There you go. I don't know. We shall see as the world turns in the NBA. But conference finals are all set. The Heat and the Celtics, Lakers, Nuggets. We'll talk more about that as the week progresses. Speaking of Boston, we got Christopher Price from the Boston Globe coming up tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Also, don't forget, obviously, the Guardians off tonight. Back at it again tomorrow, beginning a series in Chicago against the White Sox. 3.5 games out, but they get another series win. Twins have been rolling too. They won big yesterday over the Cubs, but they're in L.A. taking on the Dodgers. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they can make up some ground. All right, we got to get out of here. I believe we've got I'm Colin Montgomery. I was able to squeeze in a Colin Montgomery reference when we might be talking a little bit of golf with the Reflux show, which is later on tonight at 9 o'clock. But I'm just saying, I don't have any inside information, but maybe that's the case. Boom, outstanding effort out of you today.
Thanks, Chico. I appreciate that.
That's very heartfelt, and I mean that 110%.
I am sincerely appreciative of your immensely kind words, sir.
All right. And if it's 110% for Bohm, it's 120% for those of you that watch this, participate on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, on YouTube, the Chico Bormann Show. Hit subscribe, and of course, also catching us on the Big Play Network. We're going to do this all again, unless the lights are out for good tomorrow at 1, but hopefully they'll be on. 1 until 3. Tomorrow, Christopher Price will join us, and we'll have plenty more. Guardians will be back in action. All sorts of good stuff. Thanks to Nick Shook, also NFL.com, for joining us today. Reflux Show coming your way tonight at 9. Don't want to miss that. I'm Mike Chico Bormann. Back with you again tomorrow at 1. Until then, make it a great Monday evening, everybody. See you.